Still in my power chair. Still got my thinking cap on. This is the second part here about consequences. So if you haven't seen the first one, go back, watch the other one. This is a little shorter one, but I want to check in with you about what do you do when it's not your child who breaks the agreements, but it's your spouse. Maybe it's yourself. What do you do, and can you have agreements when the other person, the other adult in the family, doesn't really want to agree, doesn't want to go along with it, just isn't interested, or says he is because made you shut up, stop talking about it, whatever, yeah honey, sure, and you're kind of floating on this boat alone? Can you still implement agreements in your family if you're the only one sailing the ship? You can. Is it harder? Absolutely. Consistency is key, and it's so much easier to be consistent when you have somebody alongside you that we're not sending double messages. But kids get more than one message from the world, and this is now about more than your home. It moves into a closer, smaller area in your home, and that's about your relationship independently with your child. See, I know a couple of my friends don't feel like they can do these agreements because their spouse isn't on the same page, would never sit down and write up a set of agreements with their children, let alone follow them. So then what do you do? Okay, so here we go. What do you do when your spouse doesn't follow the agreements? But you know in your core heart that you want a healthy, happy, respectful relationship with your child. And you stick to that positive parenting. Start there. Go away from the agreements for a little bit. I mean, have them, know them. But before you really implement them, start with that positive parenting and that positive communication that we've talked about. Work on that. Work on yourself. Because remember, you have no control truly over those around you. But you do have influence. Come on, girl, you're the mama. You know. You got influence. And the best way to influence those around you is to model what you want. To treat others the way you want to be treated really does make a difference. And if they're not honoring the agreements that you have of a positive parenting style, then, there may be need for a third party in there if you're finding that their behavior is destructive rather than constructive. Or, it's so passive you feel like you're all alone. Maybe they can't be there. Maybe their work schedule doesn't allow it. But what you can do is you can be present. I call that mindful mommy. When I'm going to do the best that I can with what I have. And that best may look a little different than someone else's. But start there, okay? Start with that positive language that we talked about. Go and look. Go through the segments and come from a place that when you're communicating with your children, you want to help them and you want to check in. Come from that place of checking in and go from there. And then once you feel confident in that and you're modeling that and your children are modeling it, it rubs off on people. And it rubs off on those people around you, and it creates a happier energy. So you'd be amazed how much maybe your spouse might just come along. And if they don't, you're so confident in it, you got it down, maybe you don't care. Right? That could be a scenario. And then you can put your agreements up if you want. You can go to that next step. Maybe just slow down the process a little bit because you are having to do it on your own. And I want you to be kind to yourself, okay? Okay. So, now, what if you find, though, that you all agreed and you're breaking the agreements? Dagnabbit. Darn it. Breaking my own agreements. Not being consistent. Maybe I'm not KFCing it. Maybe I'm not being kind with my words. Maybe I'm not being firm. I'm not being consistent. I'm letting things go. So I should just drop these agreements altogether, right? Because if I can't do it all the way, don't do it all. Just sounds like you might want to back up a little bit. If you're finding you're breaking the agreements, it may be important for you to sit down and have a check-in with your family. And again, making sure these agreements are realistic. And if it's just a situational thing where you messed up or there's a little behavior pattern you need to check in on, remember, sometimes just simply checking in with yourself or with your spouse can be a sidebar, on your own, saying, wow, we're kind of having a hard time sticking to that agreement there. What do you think we can do? What's something else we could try? Again, you can get someone else's opinion. You can try the things, look things up. That's always fun. Little behavior tools that you can use. I just say keep working at it. You're better off than where you were before you started. So keep moving forward, and that's really what matters. And I'll give you an example of a broken agreement in our family and what we did about it, okay? We had an agreement on Sundays, and I think it's an ambitious, maybe idealistic more than realistic agreement on my part, where I wanted no electronic Sundays. That means this little iPhone, this little thing here that I'm using, this little smartphone, clicked off. Computers, off. Home phones, off. TVs, off. And we're doing from 8 to 5. And what we found was, that was so much easier said than done. And who wouldn't think that was? But we were such a plugged-in family, it was really hard to unplug. And it took a while. And we found that we would, like teenagers, sneak into the bathroom to send a text. So wrong. So wrong. You know? Or my husband would say, I've got work to do. I have to get on the computer during these hours. And he'd get on, and then he'd start surfing the net a little bit, looking at ads and deals. He's a great shopper, boy. He can find anything on sale and clearance online. Boy, he's got that down. You know, and we found ourselves breaking our agreements, but holding our children to them. Saying, put away your video games, no electronics. So we really weren't modeling consistency with the kids. And the other thing my family noticed, particularly my children, because they called us out on it, they came to the kitchen and said, hey, you know, we're supposed to have these agreements. And not only are you guys on electronics and we're not allowed, this is supposed to be the whole reason for this agreement was because we had all said we want more family time. We want to be more plugged into each other. And we're just doing chores. And that's not really plugged in. That's just doing chores. So we had to go back and revisit that agreement. And my husband and I came from a humble place of, yeah, we're not really honoring this. And changing the agreement, that's a possibility. But we really looked at the purpose and the intent of what we're doing, and that was so important that we actually decided as a family, no, we want to keep this no electronic time. There's electronics in the morning until 8, more like 9. You know, by 5 o'clock, everybody can go back and do what they need to do, but we really want to set aside these hours to really connect with each other. And so you're right, kids, let's call a spade a spade. No more making it all about chores. We'll balance it a little bit better. Mom and Dad will stay off of the electronics during this time because we want to do with you what it is that we said we were going to do, and thanks. I appreciate it. And, you know, it was really neat to watch Spencer and Isaac light up like, hey, you know, my parents made a mistake, but look how they solved it, you know, and it worked out well. So that's one of the times that I had to realize that the agreement was harder than it looked. And it might have been a little idealistic, but we've made it. We're much better at Sundays now. We have flex Sundays, we call them, you know, where we have agreements where if the kids are sick and they're needing to watch movies and such, that we'll put a movie on, you know, or if it's a holiday and it's on a Sunday, you know, we flex this idea. But the ultimate part of this agreement is that we just want to stay connected as a family. So when you find yourself breaking agreements, you know, just check and see what's going on. Remember that little conversation I said where you check in to find out information? Do that. Look in the mirror. Get out a journal. Write down why this agreement is challenging you so much. There may be something else under there that you need to work on before you're at this agreement, and that's okay too. Just stick with it, okay? And celebrate those little baby steps. All right. Talk soon. Take care. Bye.